I'm Greg Hawk. I'm here to tell you another treasure story. This story was actually sent to me by one of my subscribers. His name was Jack Wagner. He lives over in Laughlin, Nevada. And he'd been chasing this thing for a couple of years, started in 2021. And I just visited him recently here in October 2024. And he'd already been out looking for this treasure for like 200 days, really bearing down on it. So a little history behind it. Supposedly, there's a stagecoach robbery in around June of 1880 south of what they call Beale Springs at a stage stop called Yucca, which is about 17 miles south of Beale Springs. It wasn't Yucca today because that stage stop probably about 5 miles north of Yucca today on that stage trail. And the stagecoach trail ran from Beale Springs down through there on over to Needles, around Topak and up that way. A little history behind that. In 1857, a naval officer was sent out west to develop a road between Fort Defiance and Fort Mojave, and his name was Beal, and they called it the Beal Road that he developed going over there. And he also, there was a place that had spring water that everybody stopped because there's always plentiful water, and they started calling it Beale Springs, so that's why the name stuck there. Later on, the cavalry used it several times, camped out there, and many uses over the years. It always had plentiful water, and it was a stage stop. All right. Well, in June of 1880, these three desperados, one was Wallapai Joe and his two compatriots, robbed a store up in Mineral Park, which was north of there. It was a typical mining town with saloons, hotels, and a whole bit. And they headed south to Surbot, which is a mining community there, a lot of rich mines around there. And he went by Beale Springs, a stage stop. The stage master saw him go by, and they kept going south. Well, he went to the next stage stop, which they called Yucca, and they camped out just outside of there, a mile or so, just kind of keep a watch over things. Well, later in the evening, they saw a stage come through, and they thought, well, why not rob it too? So they waited till it got far enough from the stage stop so they couldn't hear gunshots, and they pulled the stage over. There were 3 passengers on board, and the stage driver was named Johnny Upshaw. They got him off. They made the passengers empty their pockets, took all their jewels, whatever, and asked if there was a strong box. And the driver said, yeah, there was, but it was really heavy, so it took 4 guys to get the strong box off and a couple pouches of gold. So once they got it off, they told the driver to get back in that stagecoach, take them passenger, and get on down the road. Well, it was getting dark then. So anyway, the outlaws couldn't hardly pick this box up. I guess it had like $200,000 worth of gold bullion in it. And they took these couple bags of nuggets they had and they stuck it in their shirts. And they pulled that box over to the side of the road and in a little depression covered it over. And they figured they'd go back to the last stage stop, grab some mules, come back and load that gold up and head on out. Well, unbeknownst to them, there's already been a sheriff already had a posse coming after them. And the sheriff got to that stage stop about the same time they got there, and the sheriff recognized him. So there was a shootout. Killed 2 of them straight away, and Wallapai Joe was taking his last few breaths, and the sheriff asked me about the stagecoach and whatever. I said, yeah, we robbed it. And stage took off, we let it go, and all once we could hear it going, all once the sound disappeared, didn't hear it anymore. I don't know what happened to it, but we buried a strong box off the side of the road with some sand over it. And about that time, I think he kicked off. So the sheriff went looking for the strong box, couldn't find it, didn't see the stage anywhere. A couple of days went by, and they got a message from the next stage stop, one down around Topak. The stage never came through. So they sent some other guys out there looking. Then they even got some Indian trackers. They never could find the stage. And they figured, well, if it fell off somewhere, there would have been vultures around with dead horses or whatever else. Well, they never saw that either. So it wasn't until about 1940 that an old desert rat out there that lived out there ran into this guy named Gladwell Richardson and asked him if he knew anything about the stagecoach robbery, because he found where the stagecoach was, with a couple of wheels sticking out of the dirt down in this deep ravine. It looked like that stagecoach had probably, when it took off, hit a wrong turn in the road out there, went off the edge of this deep ravine, and the bank caved in on top of it. That's why nobody ever saw it. There was no vultures. Anyway, there's a lot more to the story than that. But anyway, he took this Gladwell Richardson out there and showed him, told him he searched the inside that stage. There were human remains. There was no treasure on it. And for him not to say to anybody about where it was, because he didn't want a lot of people out there, you know, in the area looking around. And the author, this Gladwell Richardson, said that was fine, he wouldn't. And Gladwell Richardson went to this sheriff back then and talked to him before he passed away at that time and asked him if that robbery was true, and supposedly the sheriff said it was. And, you know, he was young when it happened or something, but anyway. So I went ahead and I talked to Jack a little bit more. He says this story had been like 7 different publications. One of them was in the Westerner magazine back in March, April of 1974 under the name Maurice Kildare. Well, I come to do a little research there. Maurice Kildare was actually the pen name of this Gladstone Richardson, and supposedly appeared in 7 different publications. The next publication was Arizona Highways in May of 1994. It's called Legends of the Lost. That was supposedly written by Gladwell Richardson. Then if you keep going on, there's other ones. You got True West Magazine, April of 2017. Then there was a couple articles written by the same lady, Claire Whitley, and the Havasu News and the Kentucky and Kingman, Arizona Miner back in 2019. So the story's been around for a while, but it doesn't seem like anybody's ever found it. Jack had went out there and he'd walked up and down that stage trail for miles, and he figured he finally found where the old stagecoach stop was. Now, it pretty much parallels where the railroad came in later. The railroad came in at 1883. Kingman became a town in 1882. This happened in 1880. I'll show you, it'll blow up this map. At that time, it'll show Mineral Park, it'll show Servite, it'll show Beale Springs, the Beale Springs Road, or Beale Road, and some of that area. You know, maps back then were, you know, pretty basic at best. You can kind of make it out a little bit. But anyway, as time went on, Jack said he's never, you know, he's found bones out there. He thought were the horses to the stage. He's found a dime in the middle of the road, the Stagecoach Road, that said 1877 on it. And I got a picture, I'll show you that. So that fits the time frame. So when these passengers emptied their pockets, possibly one of them dropped a dime on the trail there and it wasn't picked up, and Jack just happened to come across it. So he figures he knows pretty close where the stage was robbed and where the stage ended up falling off a cliff down in this ravine. And he's still looking, and he's not given up yet. So anyway, I think it probably needs a bit more research done on this, because this Gladwell Richardson, he wrote, like I said, the pen name was Maurice Kildare, published a lot of different articles at that time on this particular robbery. So I would want to do some more research, maybe go to newspapers or whatever else, see what else you might be able to find. But I'm going to show you some pictures. I'll show you the blow up of the map here. And I'll show you some pictures that Jack has taken. And Jack's being an author, I'm going to do a little plug for him. He was very helpful in all this information and pictures he showed me. And I'll show you a picture of a book he's got coming out here in December of 2024. And he says, if I can sell some books, help for my retirement. Like I say, he's a Korean War vet, and he's 89 years old, and he still gets out there and goes. So I really appreciate the time he spent with me and told me the story. All right, thank you. This is an old map of Arizona, and you can see at the top we have a mineral park, Surbat, which is the mining area. You have Beale's Wagon Road, and right along there you have Beale Springs, and you can see kind of the railroad that was laid out going south. That's pretty much where the Stagecoach Trail was. This is the dime that Jack found out on that Stagecoach Trail, 1877, and this is the back side of it. So he thinks that's possibly where the stage was held up, where he found this dime. And these are pictures of some bones he found down in a ravine he thinks was part of the stagecoach after years. And other things he's found out on the trail, he made some display things for the museum and donated them to them. This is a front cover of the Westerner magazine, a March-April issue of 1974. And inside there's a whole article on the lost stagecoach and the bullion that went along with it. The next publication was the Arizona Highways of May of 1994, and inside has a very colorful write-up on this story also that you can read through. This is good research. Next is Jack wrote this book, The Army Within Zenlu, which is coming out here shortly in December 24. And this is a back cover telling a little bit of it. Quite an interesting concept he has going on here. If you get a chance, go to our website at desertroamerpress.com. Check out our treasure blog and videos. And while there, maybe you want to pick up a copy of my book, Random Tangents. It's quite an adventure in itself. Thank you.